our labour market information series. And today we're going to be covering the digital sector. As you probably all know, digital tech vacancies are massively increasing, and in the UK they grew 36% between June and August 2020. Apparently there's over 90,000 vacancies per week, and the sector is outperforming all except healthcare in the demand for employees nationally. And this demand isn't going to be slowing or going away anytime soon. So for this morning, I'm pleased to say we've been joined by Kieran Wallbank, a lead developer at Noxcrew. Noxcrew were established in 2011 and create maps and skins for Minecraft. So Kieran, thank you for volunteering your time today, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm Kieran. Thank you for the introduction, Fiona. And I thought I'd start by talking a bit about Noxcrew, the company that I work for and what they do. I've got a little video so that there's something to watch in the background while I'm nattering away. So let me just see if I can remember how to screen share this. Can everyone see the video? Is that up? Okay, cool. So yeah, so Noxcrew are they're sort of like an entertainment gaming company that works predominantly to like create content for Minecraft, which is another video game I'm sure you've all heard of, or if not, maybe your children or students may have. But essentially, the company is split into two main parts. There is the sort of marketplace side, which is the video that I'm showing now. So they will produce these sort of maps that kids can download and play. And so this one in particular is one called Love Pets, which is sort of like a pet simulator. So you get to like raise your pets and then grow them, look after them, feed them, etc. And so everything that you're essentially looking at, all the models, the arts, the sort of code that makes all the stuff happen is what we do. And then this will get sort of sold and shipped on onto the Bedrock marketplace. So Noxcrew are actually one of the first, well, actually the first partner with Microsoft originally when they first announced this marketplace that they were talking about. And it essentially means that we can sort of sell all this content on this great platform. And then the other half, I have a different video. The other half of the company works on sort of more experiences surrounding Minecraft. So YouTube commissioned us at the end of last year to produce a sort of virtual concert for a Korean pop band called BTS. Which you may have heard of. They're very popular, predominantly over in Korea, but also they've got a big following over in sort of Europe and America as well. So we produced this big sort of pop concert for them essentially, and then YouTube streamed this live as part of their big, I can't remember exactly what it's called, Rewind 2021 or something, where they did this big sort of summary of the entire year worth of YouTube content and such. So this is the sort of experience that you can see, and then people would come to watch it. And we got collaborated with quite a few other YouTubers who came and watched live as well and reacted to it. And so that's the part of the company that I work for, this experience side of things. And the projects that I work on mainly surround this big monthly event that we put on. Called the MC Championship. And basically what this involves is we get like a whole bunch of internet personalities, YouTubers, streamers, and sort of lots of other like online faces, and they all come together every month and they play this big tournament in Minecraft, and it gets like loads of viewers. I think they get hit roughly around like 600,000 viewers across like all of the different streams collaboratively. So I think the figure that I always hear that I like to throw out is that during the Olympic opening ceremony, there were more people watching this Minecraft event in the UK and across the world than there were watching the Olympic opening ceremony, which it was a fun little figure to throw about. And so that's my role within the company. Is I'm the lead developer of a new project that we are launching soon, which is a multiplayer server that people will be able to come and play all the games that they watch all their favorite YouTubers and streamers play they watch all their favorite streamers play these games, and then they'll be able to play them with their friends. And that's my side of things. So as a lead developer, I'm essentially in charge of all of the other developers and the code and the programming side of things. But I think before I talk a bit more about that, I'll just sort of briefly tangent and sort of say how many other jobs that there are sort of tangentially involved around this tech industry. So you watched like this video playing in the background. There's loads of art. Like 3D modeling as well is a really big one. Sort of scripting and content design, like sort of the whole movement and the show and the light show in the background. All of these are sort of roles and jobs that we look for at Nox Crew that are sort of tangentially related to tech. And are also quite techy as well. Me personally, I'm no artist. I cannot draw for the life of me. But the sort of tools and programs that a lot of these artists and modelers use to create stuff can be quite codey sometimes. It can be quite a bit more technologically advanced than you'd think, more so than I could do anyway. So there's a lot of roles related to it that we look for as well. But the ones that I have the most familiar with are the programmer roles and developer roles. So at our company, we stop streaming this now. We look for developers that can help sort of program in like Kotlin and Java and other programming languages like that, and help to sort of work and create the projects and create all the tooling around the stuff that everyone else gets to see and play and enjoy. So it can often feel a little bit in the background, you know, you're not making the pretty stuff, but you're making the pretty stuff work and look pretty, which is always nice. And so the sort of industry at large is it's big, as Fiona was saying at the beginning. It's an incredibly massive industry. I mean, it's only grown and grown and grown, and will probably keep growing in the future as more and more things move into the sort of tech land and tech world of things. And one of the most interesting parts about it is that it's sort of how you get involved in these sort of things and how you get involved in roles like this. I know that sort of very typically the sort of standard way of getting into a job in the tech industry is to, you know, go to university, do a degree in something like informatics, computer science, IT, something around that, and then you move on into a job in the industry. And that is like a very important way. It's probably the biggest way that people get into it, but there are like a lot of other sort of doors that you can have open and barriers and ways that you can get into this industry as well. I think one of the really important things is to be able to sort of showcase the work that you've done, and this is one of the things that got me hired and into my job. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, right? If you were going for a job, for example, designing art, you would obviously want to have a big portfolio that you could show off. You'd want to show people all the art that you've done. If you were an architect, you'd show people all the houses you designed. And really, it's no different in the tech industry as well. It's really good to have like a good solid portfolio of work that you can show. And contributing to like open source projects as well is very helpful as well. And that's one of the main ways that I got involved in this sort of thing. I really enjoy playing Minecraft, and I also when I studied computing at secondary school, I also found out that I really enjoy programming as well. So I thought, well, why don't I stick the two together? And I made some cool mods and plugins for Minecraft, put these on the internet. Some of them got loads of downloads, and then you can sort of use that as a springboard and sort of a way to showcase your skills and talents and your code beyond sort of just like a oh, I haven't really done anything, but here's my university degree. I mean, not to like downplay that. That is obviously very important, but yeah. And I think that this is a sort of alternative way into it, and you can completely go into this industry without having any experience like that. One of my close friends works as a team lead over in Sweden in a some government related project. This sounds very interesting, but she didn't actually have a degree at all. Actually, she solely she left high school halfway through, dropped out due to health reasons, and then in the time that she had outside of education, she built up this portfolio of open source work and contributing to projects that are like made open for anyone to contribute to. I guess I could give you an example. So I guess a lot of you are sort of looking at this probably on Google Chrome now, or Firefox or web browsers like that. Both Google Chrome and Firefox are based on big open source projects, so they wouldn't exist without these sort of developers giving their time for free to contribute to these open projects that anyone can contribute to. And then Google's a little different because they take one of these projects and then put their own skin on it and ship it with all their branding. But Firefox is another one that's a bit better at that. And so my friend, she built up this portfolio of really big open source projects, and then using that, she got a job in one company and then just kept going from there to the next and next. And so I think there's a lot of different ways of getting involved in the tech industry. So I guess I'll talk a bit about like what a day in the life looks like, really, because I think there are a lot of there's a lot of misconceptions that it can be an incredibly like, oh, you know, you just sit in the dark programming on your computer and that's it. And it can be a bit like that sometimes, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more to this sort of role that can interest people as well. So my company, for example, we are entirely remote, based in Nottingham, but we're entirely remote. So we've got developers employed all over the world. As far as like America, Europe, we used to have one guy that worked in Australia, which is a bit difficult time zone wise, but you can make it work. And one of the sort of benefits of working in this like tech industry is that you can just take people from all over the world, pick the people who are the best people at what you do and bring them all together. And so I've never met you know, most of my colleagues in person, but we speak every day. We have meetings, we sit in like virtual offices, similar to like this Teams meeting now, but we don't have our video on all the time because that would be a bit crazy. And so we will sit in these sort of virtual offices and chat away and have meetings about things. And I think one of the biggest things that I maybe didn't expect, but wasn't sort of actively aware would be as big a thing as it was the sort of amount of meetings and organization there is. Because when you're working on these massive projects, like the code base that I work on, it's got something around like 150,000 lines of code, which is quite a ridiculously large amount of code. It's a massive code base. And so when you're working on something this big and this large, it's very important to be very organized. Obviously, with sort of smaller teams, you can probably get away with being a bit more free of how you do things. But it's so every week we will meet up and we'll have a meeting where we sort of discuss all the tasks that we're going to do, the projects we're going to do. This is particular a tool which I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of, called like Scrum and Agile Workflow. I think it originated in the tech field, but it has since like branched out as a good sort of way of working and dealing with teams in the rest of the world. And these sort of workflows are also quite important to learn and be able to say that you've got experience in. And one of the things that I think was very important at my time in university is that they made us sit down and do these big group projects. It's something I wish they did more of in secondary school actually as well, when I did computer science. I don't know if they do that now a lot, but when you're working in the industry, it's such a team role, right? A team job. You're a whole big team working together and you're working on the same thing and you're working towards a common goal. And it can be a lot of the time, it can feel like a lot of the time that you spend both learning the subject and sitting on your own, contributing to your own little open source projects to build your portfolio. It can feel a bit lonely sometimes when you're just sitting there doing it by yourself. But I think it's important to know that it's you know, to break that sort of stigma, that it's not just one guy sitting in his basement programming away. There is actually a big team aspect to it as well, and you know, not to drive people off who don't like the idea of just working by themselves as well. It's a very big team aspect as well. So I think that's about everything I wanted to say. I guess I will now open the floor to any questions. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask, or anything I could elaborate on, or such.
Kieran, thank you very much. Absolutely fascinating. Something that's going through my mind is, you said that companies are clearly recruiting globally. So whilst there's a huge amount of vacancies, I would imagine there's huge competition for those vacancies. So is there a skills shortage, or are there just huge amounts of vacancies, if that's making sense?
I think one of the things about the industry is it's very fast moving. You get a lot of companies that will sort of appear, and they'll run for a little while, and then maybe they'll run out of money or go bust, or they'll get bought by some bigger company and then get transformed. And so I think it's an industry where it can be hard to find sort of very, very long-term stability if you're not working for one of those big, massive, stable companies like Google or Microsoft. And then I think the other part of it as well is that a lot of companies are just sort of realizing that they need more people doing their jobs. They need more things. They're looking to expand in other areas. You get a lot of like fintech, which is it's called, the cool snazzy name for it, which is like financial technology. So like banks and like related things like that. Companies like Visa, PayPal, and then like banks as well, like Barclays and such. And a lot of them have these sort of incredibly big old code bases that were around in the 70s when computers were like the size of your kitchen, and you would program with punch cards and stuff. And a lot of the thing is as well is that there's quite a lot of tech debt out there. These sort of big, heavy programs that like run these entire companies that nobody knows how they were made. They're made with systems and technologies that are completely outdated now. And so the other thing is that there's quite a lot of companies that are just looking to like get rid of a lot of that stuff and move as well. And you see that happening more and more often, where these sort of big like technologies that are too big to fail almost need to be replaced. And sort of the fintech companies can get away with it a bit, but there's a lot of like government work where they just don't have the money and the capital to like justify spending time rewriting these systems that work but just are unmaintainable. I think it is a very competitive market. It's hard to make yourself stand out, and I think that's why the thing that I would emphasize is that it's really good to have a portfolio of like open source work that you can point towards. Because with a lot of people, they'll just go to university, they'll get to the degree, they'll come out and go into the jobs, and all they have to show for their skill is the qualifications that they have. And while that is incredibly important as well, it is really important to have the other side of things as well. To have a sort of portfolio of work that you've done. It doesn't even have to be big. You know, my portfolio was some silly little Minecraft plugins, and that got me into university, and you know, got me jobs after that, working in related industries. And so I think the one thing I would encourage to like make yourself stand out is just pick something that you enjoy, be it like modding a video game, or you like want to make your own game, or you want to make little programs that make your life easier. That sort of stuff is all really good little things to get up online on a portfolio that people can look at, see that not only do you not only do you have the qualifications in coding, but you enjoy it as well, and you do it and you're proud of the work that you've done as well.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you. Any other questions for Kieran, please? I'll hear Emma. Emma wants to come in.
Hi. So you were mentioning about how important you thought group work had been. Now, if we wanted to introduce such things for students to be able to give them some of these skill chances to show off and things like that, how would we possibly go about it? How could we link with people like you in industry? How do we make that approach to make the group projects possible to then give you the future employees that you deserve?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did at university, which is gradually becoming a sort of a bigger part of the sort of university education around it, is where they the universities will reach out to companies that need things, that need tech being made, that need programs being made. It often ends up being like you know, sort of charities, or in our university it was the project that we worked on was some bit of tech for the medicine department, for example, which you know, because obviously the big companies, they pay for the stuff themselves. They're obviously not that interested in getting a bunch of students to come and write things, but sort of companies like sort of charities, third sector work, and like within the thing themselves. And basically what they would do is identify a task. So for example, we had to write a bit of software that managed, I think it was managed like storing and indexing scans, like CAT scans, CT scans, that sort of thing. And then they just put the teams on it. So you get yourself a little team together. And the really good thing about it is although we get taught a lot of the framework of like how the sort of Scrum workflow works, the Agile workflow works, and then you're sort of more or less left alone with it. And you have to organize the sort of the design. You go from the design stage to implementation stage, and how you work with that as a team, to testing, to reporting and feedbacking. And one of the things that was really good is that we would connect with these people in industries, or like the people that needed things, and sort of report back to them almost as if we had like clients or customers. And I thought it was really good experience, and way more valuable than just the sort of standard coursework of here's a thing, sit down, do it by yourself, because it's not very indicative of the sort of work you actually end up doing in the industry anyway. You know, in no company are you just going to be one person sitting alone doing something by yourself. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. And Hyla's just put something in the chat, Emma, to say that USP College is now part of the Careers Hub, and we can help you link to industries through your careers leader. So thank you for that, Hyla.
Thank you.
And I think another thing as well is that a lot of companies are sort of very happy to have like internships and work like that. Like one of my colleagues, who is the absolute best DevOps person I know in the world. He's an absolute genius, and he started working with us through an internship. He reached out and said, you know, I'd be really interested in doing an internship. My school will be happy to, like, you know, place us there, and the sort of interaction between the sort of company and the educational side of things to sort of help teach like real on-the-job skills and skills of working within a team directly, instead of sort of work experience that was, you know, you go to a place and you do the work, because it was remote as well. That was really helpful as well. And he's learned so much and is now an absolute genius and really enjoys it, and then came on to work with us afterwards. So yeah.
Kieran, are there any particular universities that are particularly well respected for courses within this sector?
Yeah, I think the really interesting thing about universities is that when you look at some of the sort of standard, like, good universities like Oxford and Cambridge, they don't really have the infrastructure needed to sort of teach the subject well. So like I went and looked around Oxford, for example. I ended up going to the University of St Andrews up in Scotland. And the problem with a lot of these older universities, like Oxford and Cambridge and you know, Durham and those sort of ones, is that they just don't have like a big computer department. And you know, especially college universities as well, you can't afford to have like a big set of computers in a college where you may only have 2 or 3 people actually studying that degree. And so I think what's really interesting about like sort of IT and informatics and computer sciences degrees is that it's not the like standard red brick Russell Group universities that are often the good ones. For me, like the University of St Andrews was so good because they very early on, you know, back in the 70s, they were, I think, one of the first universities to offer, or it might be Edinburgh, I'm confusing with actually, an informatics degree. And so they spotted very early on that that was going to be such a big industry. And so they then ended up making these big departments with the kit and the tech and the sort of range of staff as well, which is what the subject needs. You need a sort of big group of people all coming together to sort of learn it, and lots of a wide variety of like academics as well. Whereas, you know, which they just don't really have in sort of the older like collegiate universities, where they just, I remember looking around one Oxford college, and it was like, oh, come and have a look at our computing department, and it was a small room with 4 computers in it. It was like, I've seen better tech, you know, departments in like in like universities that would normally you'd consider to be lower down the rankings and such. And so I think it's one of the really interesting things about it as well is that you know, you can be taught all the theory that you like in these older universities, but the important part is getting the hands-on skills and actually being able to have experience sitting down, programming, working as big groups, working with like a range of academics and stuff. And that's just something that universities like Oxford and Cambridge can't really offer, or didn't, at least a couple of years ago when I was at uni.
Yeah, Hyla's made another interesting point that she did an IT degree a few years ago, and because the industry moves so quickly, she felt by the time she finished the degree it was already out of date. And interestingly, the sixth form where my children are at, they don't deliver an IT qualification for that very reason. They say by the time the students take the exam, it's out of date. So the question from Hyla is around, how do education providers keep up with this changing world and the requirements of industry?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a very hard question to answer, I think. I mean, I think at sort of university level and sort of, you know, college levels, it's a bit easier because you can get people teaching who are like in the industry. So one of the things I keep mentioning is like open source work, and a lot of the like lecturers and academics that I had teach me at university were the people that were doing the cutting edge work. They were doing the like, you know, on the edge development of new ideas and new you know, new features and these sort of new technologies, and that is very important to have. Obviously a bit more can't really have that at sort of like a secondary school level. You'd probably struggle to get you know, to get this sort of industry leaders coming in to teach, and so I think it's probably a question I don't quite have an answer to, really. I mean, I think identifying the things to teach, because there are a lot of things that will stay the same, a lot of like core structures, core like ways of thinking. One of the things that I always say is that once you've got your brain sort of wired into how programming works, you can then pick up any programming language, and it's just a matter of learning the syntax and how it looks, really. And so I think the key part is to just teach a lot of these like core ideas of like you know, how databases work and are managed, how you program generally, how you write algorithms and stuff. And I think that's probably the sort of best you could do, really. Not a great answer, but yeah, it's a tricky question.
Thank you. We've just got one more question here. I'm very conscious of the time. So from Sally Webb, and Sally's saying, do you know when the industry will start to move forward with the apprenticeship standard? She's seen a few opportunities, but it's not an industry there was many apprenticeship opportunities. Although I have to say, Sally, I've seen a big increase this year in degree apprenticeships in IT. Really have. Kieran, what are your thoughts around that, please, as apprenticeships as a route in?
I think that one of the things that I've noticed from a lot of people that I've spoke to, both at university and after university, who are sort of looking for apprenticeships, is that a lot of the people that found apprenticeships didn't find people advertising apprenticeships. You know, they went out and spoke to companies and said, would you be able to offer me this? And then they would come back and say, yeah, sure, we can make something work, we can fit something in. I don't think that's the best way of doing things, to be honest. I would sort of agree that it would be a good idea for these industries and companies to start actually offering more stuff, because you can't rely on people going out and hunting and finding things and reaching you out. But I think that's probably a good way of sort of getting it out, is just find companies you're interested in, email them and see if they've got any space. And, you know, worst case scenario, they say no. You know, so you don't really lose anything, I guess. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're now drawing to a close. It's 9:32. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us today. It's so fantastic to see an increasing number of people attending these sessions. It really is. So thank you, Hyla. Kieran, you've been a star. You really have. Very engaging, very interesting. And thank you very much for giving up your time to speak to us today. And Hyla, thank you for organising this session. And I hope you feel better very soon.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good day all, and thank you.
Thank you.